What's up, Clemson fans? It's time to roar. This is episode 3 of Around the Bases. I am your host, Big Al. And look, what I'm going to do right tonight, we have my co-host, as usual. I am kind of making him a little uncomfortable because I am calling him my co-host. He's been promoted, and he didn't know he was promoted. But Corey Welch, congratulations. How are you, man?
Doing well. How about you?
I'm doing all right. Licking some wounds from the weekend, but, doing all right. It was a great series, which is, what we've come to expect from Clemson, South Carolina baseball. We have a lot to talk about tonight. We like to keep this show around 15 minutes or so. I'm betting it goes longer than that tonight. There's too much good stuff to talk about within the game. Too much good content we have to talk about. So we're gonna get to all that. So we're gonna dive right in because we really don't have any other choice. First of all, South Carolina's able to walk off the first game. They're able to walk off the second game as well after the first game was canceled. So it just rips the heart out of Clemson fans, okay? I mean, you lose 5-2, you accept it, and you move on. But you get walked off both times. First game in extra innings, that's a little tough, don't you think?
Yeah, that is tough. One thing I want to say, though, is like you talked about, those were two great games from start to finish, all the way through. One thing I liked was there were fans there, which is good to see, with everything that's kind of going down. And it was good. Just weather was great. Unfortunately, you lost Friday night. We'll get a round 3, I guess, in May, which will be a little exciting. But just glad college baseball is back, and we're actually talking about that, especially in these 25 minutes. So.
No doubt, absolutely. I mean, after our hearts were ripped out last year, and didn't have the season stopped after just a few weeks, it's nice to have the season going strong, and it looks like there's no end in sight. So I'm glad to see that. Let's dive into the weekend. Okay, we could separate this by game if we wanted to, but what I'm going to start talking about is the starting pitching, especially of Clemson, of course. Sharp, man, he looked good again. I thought Sharp was very good on the mound. Got a lot, several more strikeouts. It was just another great day for him, really. Olenchuk, we talked about Olenchuk a little bit, back and forth via text message. I was actually a little surprised to see. I thought they hit Olenchuk pretty well, actually. Now, they didn't score a lot of runs, so that was good. I mean, obviously, if you keep the runs down, that's what it's all about. I thought they were hitting the ball pretty well. Brewer made a couple of good plays in right field, a couple of solid hits, but overall limited the damage. So another good outing for Olenchuk as well. What do you think about the starting pitching?
Yeah, Sharp, as you were watching, they kind of ambushed him early on. Brady Allen with a big hit, and then Wes Clark with the 3-0 laser. But the thing that as the game went on, and he kind of proved that he is that Friday night guy that you questioned a couple of weeks ago. But
right.
4 innings. Another big turning point in the game was in the second inning. I believe they had second and third, nobody out, and he punched some guys out. He ended up with 10 of his 12 outs were punch outs. They did get 7 hits, so he scattered that, but he allowed them to get in the game. And then Olenchuk, you touched on it a little bit. He did get touched up some, but for a freshman to go on the road in basically his hometown, which I'm sure he would probably tell you that it is what it is. It's not that big a deal, but that has something to do with it. But to still perform on that stage is a great thing. So.
Without a doubt, yeah. I certainly don't want to question Olenchuk's ability because I love what I've seen from him so far. I really do. He pounds the strike zone, and you mentioned that when we were talking about him in the beginning. That's something you love to see because I hate seeing him giving up walks. I can't stand the free pass. So it's good to see that for sure. I think he's a gritty guy. He looks like a competitor out there, and I think he's going to be great for this staff for sure moving forward. If Sharp can stay like he is, Clemson's going to have a chance to win a lot of games regardless of how this weekend turned out. Both teams have their faults. You could see some things going on, defensively with both teams in this series, these 2 games we played. But I think both teams are going to win a lot of games this year. Both teams are going to have tough schedules. Clemson has a tough schedule to end the season. South Carolina is going to be, pretty tough all the way through, I think. But yeah, SEC and ACC both have some good baseball teams. So it's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to see a lot of things different and hopefully progress throughout the season, especially on Clemson's side. Batting wise, we need to be more consistent. That's something we kind of saw this weekend. We had some guys kind of come back down to earth. Bryce Teodosio in particular had a great first weekend. I was talking him up on the Morgan Thomas show when we talked a little baseball there as well. His average came down about 150 points, I believe, or 120 points or something like that. it seems like he kind of reverted back to the old Bryce Teodosio. He looks like he was, taking full swings, not making a lot of contact. It was kind of frustrating for me to see that because I didn't get to see him the first week when he hit so well. So this is all I have to go on is what I saw this weekend. In fairness to Bryce, good pitching staff they faced against. South Carolina's got a lot of good arms. They're throwing a lot of heat. They're bringing it up mid-90s. Almost all of their pitchers were bringing it up mid-90s. So that's tough stuff. But we had a lot of guys step up. Tell me a little bit about some of the guys that you saw that surprised you, maybe some guys that you weren't thinking about, maybe some freshmen that were able to play because of some injuries. What kind of position players that you thought stepped up at the plate?
Well, I mean, the first, when the lineup came out on Saturday, Alex Irvin getting his first start. We didn't mention him early on. He didn't end the game. He almost hit a home run in the 11th, I believe, I can't remember exactly. But in the late innings, to the deepest part of the park in South Carolina. Like I was talking to somebody the other day, I was like, there's that part of the park, there's not a field bigger in South Carolina, and that's where he hit it to the warning track too. So unfortunate there. And then, on Sunday he came up with 3 hits. So that was good to see him rebound. I've kind of followed him through his high school career, even to now, and I was kind of blown away with how much more physical he is. I mean, I've seen the kid just put on just a display of power, and that was when he was smaller. But he's put in some work. And then another guy that kind of stepped up and got a pinch hit opportunity and then played in the second half of the game on Sunday is Reagan Reed. He kind of threw his name into the mix with a big base hit, and then almost had a second one. And then the second baseman from Carolina had other thoughts on that. That was a great play. I mean, it really was.
I thought he had no chance at that play.
Yeah. And I'm sitting there saying, like, there's no way he's going to second base with that.
Of course not.
But, and then kind of, James Parker had 5 more hits this weekend. Yeah. And one thing Coach Lee did on Sunday that I really liked was moving Dylan Brewer up to that leadoff spot.
Absolutely.
Got on base 4 times Saturday and was on base 6 times altogether the entire weekend. So, I mean, he's a real dynamic player. Having those two, up at the top, they'll get some good things going. And, tip your hat to South Carolina, man. That's a really good team, and I think a lot of it is they had a lot of guys coming back from last year, which, with the time that we have, we're not able to kind of dissect the opponent. But, I mean, there was a lot of experienced players on that team. So.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Yeah, there was a lot to take away from this weekend. We're going to get into the relievers before we get into some of the more interesting and controversial stuff in this game, all right? So let's talk about the relievers a little bit. The relievers did, pretty well for the most part for Clemson. I think Estridge, had a little trouble. That's another move we'll talk about later in the show. Clark, you got to help us out with Matt Clark. Okay, Matt Clark has been the guy. We've talked about him being this dominant guy, potential starter. The guy you can count on in relief. I'm pretty sure he had a great opening series. And, man, he did not have a good outing at South Carolina. Gave up several runs on that Sunday game. Did you see anything in particular from Clark that you were able to see that he wasn't doing that he's been doing?
Yeah, I mean, he just left a couple pitches up, and it's a tough matchup for him being a lefty, in a right-handed heavy South Carolina lineup. But Coach Lee, one of the guy that I think you and I were texting, and I was like, hey, this is the time you need to go to him, and
right.
And he dialed it up, and he just left a couple pitches up, and he just happened to leave one up to arguably the best hitter in the country. So
yeah, no doubt about it. Yeah, I mean, we were talking about that. We were obviously exchanging a bunch of text messages throughout these games, and and then one other call that we'll get to later is one of the only 2 coaching decisions I was real thrilled with that Monty Lee made all weekend. Okay, so we're going to talk about that. It's going to be an interesting discussion, and it's really great. I love having you on this show, not because of our intense history we have together. It's just because we can disagree, and you can still get along. It's nice to be able to do that because there were several coaching decisions that I thought it was obvious it should be this way, and you were saying no, I think it should have been this way, and that's really cool to have that back and forth. I mean, you don't want everybody agreeing with you on the show. It's nice that me and Houston are able to agree on the Morgan Thomas show, and Morgan's kind of in left field, being wrong on his show. So, no, we have a good time with that, and it's nice to be able to do that and see kind of both sides of the coin. So let's jump right in here to the umpires, okay? Look, these umpires were absolutely awful on Saturday. this is an overused phrase. Okay. That's the worst call I've ever seen. This is the worst thing these were bar none the worst set of umpires I've ever seen in my entire life, particularly behind the plate. The strike zone was all over the place. You've got SEC, South Carolina guys calling the game on television, talking about how bad the strike zone is, regardless of whether it's against Clemson or whether against South Carolina. That should tell you something. Okay, they should be very biased in this game, and they did a good job of not being on the television. They were giving the umps a hard time. I think they should have. I understand umpires have a hard job, man. I get it. I really do, and I respect that. But this was just unacceptable. I mean, you're talking about some pitches that you actually sent me a screenshot earlier today of one of the strike calls, okay? And, I mean, what? That ball is I'm being generous when I say it's probably about 8 inches off the plate. I mean, that thing could have been up to a foot off the plate. It just moved around. It was inconsistent. It's not like he was giving that outside pitch every time. I'll give you it this time, and the next time I'll give it to you a foot high, and then if it almost hits a batter, maybe I'll give it to you. It's just unbelievable. I've never quite seen anything like it. So give me your thoughts on the strike zone from the umpires, at least.
That was definitely, to say it nicely, that was an interesting strike zone the other night. Like especially like in game. What I have to talk to my players about is we don't argue early on. We allow the guy to establish the zone.
Sure.
And I'm not. Who knows how that game would have went if it was a consistent strike zone? Because I will say, I mean, like I think the video I sent you was a picture of a South Carolina batter striking out on the ball in the left-handed batter's box. So it went both ways.
Yep.
But it takes the bat out of guys' hands. Like they really don't know, even in the third or fourth. That pitch is a little bit off the plate. Like you have to fight it off or whatever it may be. It changed the entire approach of both sides.
Without a doubt.
And also notice that they're calling more high strikes now. I'm not sure if that's something they're placing more emphasis on. I mean, the upper half of the strike zone is a strike. Predominantly you want to keep the ball down, but you call a high strike, man. Some hitters get really upset. But it was disappointing for a game of that caliber to really be affected that way.
Yeah.
Who knows what really would have happened, but I hate that. I can't vouch for the guys on that.
Yeah, it was tough to watch. I really do. I think it definitely had an effect on the game, especially considering the two different approaches between Clemson and South Carolina. So that was tough. You'd like to see a more even playing field, so to speak. But at the same time, we talked about it was both ways. I saw it. I saw South Carolina get completely hosed on some strike calls, just like I did Clemson. So I don't really have any issues there. I think my issues in particular with the umpiring is the couple of close calls or questionable calls we had in the field went against Clemson, and that's irritating, especially because there were runners on base both times. We're going to talk about one of them. One of them was the pickoff play at first, okay? So one thing is interesting. The throw beats the guy there. I'm pretty sure, if I'm remembering this correctly, the throw beat the guy there, and you'll hear a lot of people say, just like the strike zone, well, if he's hitting that spot consistently, they're going to call that, okay? If the throw beats him there, they're going to call him out. I hate hearing that. I absolutely despise it. I don't care if the throw beats him there. Does the tag beat him before he gets on the base? I don't even know that he ever tagged the guy at first. I mean, he jumps over him, and I'm not even sure his mitt ever even made contact with the guy. Called him out. No replay that I remember. I mean, what happened? What did you see on that pickoff play?
I mean, you just nailed it right there. And the thing that surprised me was the lack of, they didn't go to replay right there on that call.
Right.
I mean, you saw it earlier on with a play on a double where they did go to it. So I was really confused there as to what really went down.
I was completely lost. I was wondering the same thing. I was like, hey, can they not, they change the rules all the time. I was like, can they not use replay until a certain inning? What is going on here? I'm not really sure. But that was obvious. And again, South Carolina, broadcast team was like, man, they missed that one big time. And, so I got to give kudos to those guys for calling that out and being fair about it. One thing that really irritated me, and this might have been the time where I got most upset during the game. I'm trying to remember the exact scenario. But anyway, it's the play at second. I don't know if was there no outs? I can't exactly remember how this happened, but the guy was stealing second, and the batter got walked. Okay, the umpire makes no call at second base, none. And the guy kind of is like, "Am I out? Am I okay? I guess I'm out." And he walks off the base. I get it. Stay on the base until you're told to go sit in the dugout. But why is the ump not making some kind of safe or out call there? What's happening?
Well, because there is no play until
Because
after he gets off the bat. Yeah, because of the walk, he's awarded the base. As soon as he steps past the base, that's where it happens. Until then, I mean, there's no safer out. You just stand on the bag, and they tell you when the umpire tells you you're out. You're out. Not when the fielder tells you. I mean, I've seen that happen before too.
Right.
But, you can't. Once you leave the bag, I mean, it's fair game then.
So South Carolina did a good job in that. Well, I say you did a good job. It depends on how you're looking at it. They did a good job, smiling, laughing. Yeah, we got him. And then he just walks off the base. It's like he listened to them, like they saw the umpire's signal. My issue there is it wasn't just a walk. Okay, it's not like he was on first chilling and they got a walk and he goes to second and just steps off on his own. This was a steal. He's not paying attention to the pitch. He's going. I think there has to be a call made there. I think as an umpire, I don't know if that's the rules or not. I'm just saying, as a person watching the game, if you are stealing, therefore not paying attention to home plate and what's going on there and whether the guys walked or not, you should immediately be looking for a safe or out call, and there was none. That's what's frustrating to me. And I know you're an umpire. That's one thing I actually meant to get to at the beginning of this show. And we'll get to that maybe at the end of the show. Remind me. I want to kind of give the fans a little bit of your credentials, your experience in baseball.
I'm not an umpire.
So I don't know. I was really frustrated about that. I thought it was ridiculous. I thought there should have been some kind of call there. But I understood. I was like, well, it was a walk. Maybe there's not supposed to be. I'm not really sure. If that's the case, I think that needs to change. I think there has to be some kind of indication there. But Monty Lee, they got to get on the players. Hey, you stay on the base till the ump tells you to go sit down, and problem solved, I guess. But it was just kind of unfortunate the way that went down, because that could have been a huge situation for Clemson that could have led to some runs.
Yeah.
So all right, now we're getting into a whole different concept. We're already at 17 minutes. All right. And I wasn't sure exactly how I wanted to approach this, because this is a tough thing to talk about. I've talked about Monty Lee's strategy for quite some time on the Morgan Thomas show. I've talked about it a little bit, I think, here on Around the Bases, but I am not a fan of Monty Lee's strategy, which seems to be long ball. Okay, seems to be get up there and swing for the fences, and there's very little bunting. I was shocked. I was completely taken aback when they actually used the squeeze play, which I had texted you about. I texted you before it happened. I said, should they try the squeeze here? Because, I obviously wanted them to. And, of course, they did. They laid it down. Perfect. They got safe at home, safe at first, safe at second. It was a great call. But that is definitely the exception as opposed to the rule. He did it, I think, twice in the same inning. Jonathan French tried to lay down a bunt later, and it did not go so well. Mm-hmm. But I'm a huge proponent of the bunt. I don't like the analytics. I think they're hurting the game of baseball, for one. But I get them. I understand them, and I understand where the numbers are coming from. But I think they only work if your team is built in a way that can use them to their advantage. We are not a power team. We don't have guys that are hitting it out of the park. We have nobody, in my opinion, that has real consistent home run power right now. Hackenberg's not in the lineup, who would probably be one of those guys. Caden Grice, once he gets his feet under him, is probably going to be one of those guys, but he's not now. And, who else do you have that you think is going to get up there and hit a home run? We don't have Seth Beer. We don't have Chris Williams anymore. Those guys aren't there. So I think we should be adjusting our team strategy to take advantage of the personnel we have. And I simply don't think we're doing it the way we're playing. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, you and me went back and forth on this. You bunt every opportunity you get.
Just about.
And obviously we're going to talk, what we're reverting to is the play with Parker, I assume, right? With first.
There were several of them, but yes, first and second, no outs. Parker.
Yeah. Right there in that situation, I 100% agree with them, allowing him to swing the bat. He had 5 hits on the weekend. He's your best player. He'd already hit a home run in that inning. I'm going to play devil's advocate here. Let's say he bunts that ball back to the pitcher. They get the out at third. Nothing happens. What are what you're going to say there is, that's our best hitter. Right. Why are we having him bunt? It's one of those things you got to go with your gut, and and that's what they did, and I think it was the right call. At the end of the day, and the players will probably take accountability of it too. Like, they have to produce.
Sure.
They're there to swing the bats. There are times where you need to move those guys over. Now, on the flip side, if Clemson was a home team in that situation, they may lay down the bunt there because you only need one. You're facing a team where you can't give up an out to score a run because you got to respect Carolina's offense. That
Right.
they can put a crooked number up in a heartbeat. So
And did.
and they did, yeah. So it goes back and forth, and you're still filling out what their strengths are. You're 2 weekends in, 6 games. We'll kind of I'm sure we'll touch on what's coming up this week that I think will allow them to get an opportunity to kind of fill themselves out a little bit more. So.
Sure. And one thing I did want to mention, I wasn't particularly talking about just that play. I thought there were many opportunities to bunt, not only in this game, but in the past 5 years. I think there's been plenty of opportunities to bunt that just didn't happen. And I've seen what happens afterwards, and it hasn't been pretty for the most part. It really hasn't. The James Parker thing, look, that was one where, I understood what you were saying. He's your best hitter. I get that. I understand that. And in the situation here, not being the home team and all that kind of stuff, I can respect that. I would have been happier with a bunt in that situation, but I'm okay with Parker swinging away. I really do understand that. But I'm the guy, it seems like people get up there and they have no intention whatsoever of bunting, and that's fine if you're Wes Clark hitting 700. Okay, I'm cool with that. But even our big power hitters, Seth Beer, what was he, a 300-ish hitter, something like that? If I need Seth Beer to lay down a bunt, I will tell Seth Beer to lay down a bunt. That's what I want, and I want him to be able to do that. And it just doesn't seem like Clemson is even good at bunting. I've seen guys go up there bunting. French had trouble. I know he pulled his hamstring. I think he was a little injured when he tried to lay one down. I'm not going to beat up Jonathan French for that necessarily. But it's been several players who I think are more prone to need to bunt, whether it be a Teodosio, whoever it is, and they simply can't lay one down, which is concerning to me. I don't know if that's the reason they don't bunt, or they're not able to bunt because that's not their strategy. I'm not really sure the ins and outs of that. I'm not at practice. I'm not.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. Yeah, I know they work on it at practice. I'm not at practice either, but
right.
I feel like with those things, that's something that they're definitely going to address moving forward. Especially with the pitching staff that they have, where they know they could keep those runs down. Those certain runs would be valuable. So.
Yeah, and what's one thing that's really funny, I was talking about, you laughed at me. You laughed at me when I was telling you we had runners. One time we had runners on second and third. Do you remember the text message I sent you when we had runners on second and third, no outs?
Yeah, I remember.
Bunt twice.
Yeah, bunt twice. You can't.
Bunt twice.
Yeah, and that's where it's fun. And you and I go back and forth, but I'm just a believer. Like in college baseball, you cannot you cannot give away outs in 2 outs for 2 runs.
I want to be. Yeah, I want to be very clear on this, by the way. When I send you these text messages, and most of them will have a laughing face beside it, that means I'm not entirely serious. I would be cool if they wanted to lay down two bunts there, because let's think about it here, because you're almost guaranteed to at least get one of those down for a run. Whether you get both of them and you execute them both perfectly and get 2 runs in, great. But you're almost guaranteed to get one. That one could have been the winning run in that game because both games were that close. Okay, so that's all hindsight 2020. But I'm not the guy that sees the play out and then tell you what I would have done. I'm telling you before it happens.
Yeah.
And then so be it. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. And B, I'm going to be honest. I would so much rather be wrong and have Clemson winning than me be right and have Clemson losing. Okay, I don't like it one bit. I hate seeing these kids lose. I know they work hard. I know they're good kids. They're Clemson kids. So I feel like, we're connected because that's my team. I want them to succeed no matter what. I want Monty Lee to succeed no matter what. Okay, I just think we have different philosophies, plain and simple. Monty Lee's not a bad guy. I'm not even saying he's a bad baseball coach. I just don't agree with the in-game coaching decisions he makes, plain and simple. And they say there's more than one way to skin a cat. So you can win a game in a different way, and that's cool. I don't mind your approach. I just think a small ball type team would be better for the personnel that we have. A small ball type approach would be better for the team that we have right now. So that's going to be something fun to watch moving forward. I loved the way, like I said, I love the way he handled that one inning. He laid down the squeeze. Man, I call for the squeeze all the time. I love the squeeze. It worked to perfection in that inning. You trust me, you got a couple text messages about that. I know you remember that too. But it's just fun. It's fun to watch the different strategies because baseball, man, You can do a million things in baseball, and that's one of the things that makes baseball so special. And it's one of the things that makes baseball, in my opinion, one of the hardest games to coach. There's just so much strategy involved, and everything matters. But it's a lot of fun, and I hope Clemson's able to really turn this around. I personally believe Clemson can win a lot of games moving forward. They get Kier back in the lineup. They get Hackenberg back in the lineup. They get maybe Hall, if Hall can improve his bat and get him back in the lineup. I think they have a chance to win a lot of games. Their pitching has really impressed me for the most part. I think it's going to be fun. I really do think they can win a lot of games. I'm not down on this team. I think they've got a lot of winning baseball ahead of them for sure. South Carolina is a good team. I think Clemson's a good team. It's not like we were getting blown out. These are walk-off wins, people. Okay, I think we'll be just fine. One other thing I want to get before we got out of here. Another coaching decision I was not thrilled with, and I don't know that you were either. This might have been one of the times we agreed. I do not see the logic behind taking out Pandya and bringing in Estridge at the end of the game. Tell me your thoughts on that. What happened? Pandya came up. I'm pretty sure he got him 3 up, 3 down. And they bring in Estridge, who, if I'm not mistaken, I didn't get to see it, but from what the stats I remember him, he struggled against Cincinnati from what I remember. So tell me kind of the logic you saw with that move and why they didn't leave Pandya in for at least another inning.
Yeah, I thought that was a little interesting too. That Pandya had come out. He's kind of proven he could throw back-to-back days. Like one thing that I'm not sure of is I don't know with the style of pitcher that Estridge is. Maybe he matched up better than what Pandya brought to the table or anybody else in the pen. I think it was going to be maybe a situation to where they were just going to match guys up throughout the inning. Because if you notice right then, they had Hammonds warming up in the pen as well as Edmondson, who's somebody we haven't seen. So I think right then it was just going to be, hey, we're just going to kind of piece that together, to try to get to that. I mean, again, I'm not sure, but Pandya, that's one of the guys I got here, out of the bullpen guys. I mean, in the previous 2 weeks, man, he's proven he can get the job done. England's proven that job, and Gilbert, even though he took the tough luck loss on Saturday night. I mean, that's 3 staples at the back of that bullpen that you feel really good about that a lot of teams don't have. So.
Yeah, I agree with that, and I skipped this earlier when we were talking about the whole bunting and the in-game strategy, but I do want to touch on this real quick, and we'll get out of here. We're almost at 30 minutes, which, again, we knew this show was going to kind of be like this. But, one of the things is the approach at the plate, and this goes back to Monty Lee's strategy. South Carolina has a Wes Clark. They have other guys, a couple other guys that have pretty legit home run power. From what I remember, Wes Clark can hit it backwards, 400 feet or whatever. It's crazy the power that guy has. This first home run that he hit, I thought it was almost a shallow pop up. It didn't look like he got any of it to me. But with his reaction, I was like, "There's no way. Is that ball really going out?" And sure enough, it went out. But South Carolina has runners on base. They have 2 outs. They get down to 2 strikes. Whatever it is, you notice a gap about that much between their hands and the knob of the bat. They're choking up on the bat. They're making good swings. They're trying to make contact. Clemson never does that. They never do it. I always see their hands bottom of the bat, full length, taking full swings. A lot of Ks because of that. I don't understand that part of the game. I don't understand, with 2 strikes, why you're not choking up and just trying to make contact. Because half the time, if you make contact, you make the defense make a play, and they don't always do that in college. There's a lot of errors that go on and things like that. But a lot of times it just gives you a little bit better swing. It's a little more compact, a little quicker. You can get line drives better that way a lot of times. And I'm just not sure why they don't do that. You help us out and let the Clemson fans know why they may not be using that approach.
Yeah, that was something that I kind of was keeping tabs on throughout the game. I mean, I got it right here on the weekend. They struck out 30 times between the 2 games. But then I felt like, and I went back and looked at the notes too, I felt like in the second half of Sunday's game, they started making more consistent contact. And they did. And if you notice them, that's when the run started going. There were more line drives and things like that. So maybe rather than choking up, they did discuss, a shorter, approach at the plate.
Sure.
In the 2 hits, I mean, they left some guys on. They had 16 hits between the 2 games and drew 9 walks. So 25 base runners, not counting hit by pitches or errors. They definitely left some guys on. And part of that is, you got into that Carolina bullpen on Sunday.
Mhm.
And we saw that with Clemson too. There are a couple of little chinks in the armor when it comes to the bullpen on Sunday. But part of it, maybe on I keep going back to this. Those two starters for South Carolina were pretty good, and then Bosnick, who came in relief Saturday, I think he struck out the side. I mean the starting pitching for South Carolina is going to be their strength. But you're Clemson fans, like, I like it because you want to know what you need to do to get better than that, to improve on that. So like it just putting the ball in play, having a shorter approach, just hitting the ball on the line. So
yeah. No, look, don't give up on Clemson yet. We got a guy here. We didn't get to a lot of comments tonight, okay, because this was a packed show. We didn't get to a lot of comments.
I got to eat crow on one thing, Alan.
I think I was about to do the same comment. I'm pretty sure I was about to put up the same comment. You're not talking about David Thompson, are you?
I am. I'm talking about David. Yep. As soon as last week, I predicted Clemson to win 2 out of 3, and I bet it wasn't 10 seconds after I made that. I got a text message. So good thing. I appreciate you tuning in, David. And you were right. So. We talked about the bullpen and things like that, and that was kind of the difference. So tip the hat to the Gamecocks.
Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, guys, look, this giving the Gamecocks credit is not something I like to do. It's not in my genes. It's not what I want to do. But hey, they played a good series, and it looked like the South Carolina teams of old that won all the national championships. They were gritty. They got the hits when they needed them, when they mattered the most, and that's what they used to do. So hopefully Clemson can turn it around. They got to get the bats going, got to get healthy. And I think they're going to be able to do some of that, whether it's going to be enough to make some noise like we were hoping at the beginning of the year. We'll see. But I'm pretty confident going forward that we're going to make some improvements and have a good season for sure and make a regional and all that. So I'm not too concerned for the most part. Looking at the timer. Say what?
One last thing, like kind of going into next week, I think the big thing going into that series was not having that midweek game, getting those guys those reps. Looking at the score, they got East Tennessee State tomorrow, and then conference play starts this weekend. So that's what really is important. And then the following week, they do pick up those midweek games. So getting those guys game at bats is going to be huge. Yeah, so don't give up on the Tigers yet. They're going to be fine.
That's right. I'm still optimistic. I love baseball too much to be pessimistic about this team. So I'm always supporting the players. This is not one of those things where I'm trying to bash anybody or anything like that. We've talked about some disagreements we've had or some disagreements I have with the coaching staff. I love these players. I love the coaches. I want to support them in every way I can. I want to see them succeed, plain and simple. Sometimes you just have a different way of going about it. But yeah, we got a lot of baseball to look forward to. You got the midweek this week. You got the Notre Dame series this weekend. So that's going to be something we'll look forward to. That's something we'll recap on Monday night. But again, I want to thank everybody for joining us tonight. We are on Monday nights at 8:30 around the bases. Please check out the Morgan Thomas Show as well. 8:00 on Tuesday nights. We'll be doing that live, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, wherever you can find social media. We'll be there. We'll also be on the Roar page as well. So join us then. And be sure to check out the next episode 4 of Around the Bases on Monday at 8:30. And ladies and gentlemen, we'll see you as we slide into home.